marks day one of riding, June 27th. As per tradition, we'll do an inaugural wheel dip in the Colorado River. Next wheel dip will be in Lake Erie, Pennsylvania. Oh man, little did I know in this moment, I would not be making it to Erie. Well, by bike. I would by plane. Dirty ass water. Alright, let's ride 1,500 miles. We started out that ride with my buddy Jet. He rode with me the first day, and it was hard. I mean, we did like 80 miles. However, Texas farmland was absolutely gorgeous. I mean, biking through the middle of nowhere, cows, and yeah, just being out there in nature was wonderful. So today marks day 3 of my journey. I'm outside of like Bastrop, Texas right now. And for Bastrop, I went to College Station. From College Station to Huntsville. Stayed with an amazing family there. Leaving there was probably my favorite ride day. I got to go through the Sam Houston National Forest, so everything was completely covered, and I had all the back roads to myself. Every day was pretty much the same throughout this trip. Like, I felt really good all morning, but after 4 or 5 hours in hot Texas sun, the heat started to weigh on me. I was riding like way too much, doing like 65, 75, 85, and really it just made biking like not really that enjoyable because I was just trying really hard to get to the host where I was going, and it's like I didn't have time to like really stop and enjoy my breaks. I was just lugging all of this gear. Like 80 miles on a road bike is one thing, but when you're lugging all this, it's a bit much. So only 45 today. I'm probably gonna keep around 50 for the rest of the trip. Bike to this Native American campground. I can't remember the name of it. The Alabama Kasha or something, some Native American campground. Closed, and unlike the last campground I was at, where I rolled up on a bicycle, they were closed, but they're like, still took me in because, I mean, you're biking someplace, usually people are a little more sympathetic, but unfortunately not the case at this said place. So I'm gonna try to go to Woodville is the next town. Supposedly a campground there. Maybe this will be the first night I do some wild camping. I don't know, we'll figure it out. So I kept going to a volunteer fire station, which was about 15 miles away, because sometimes they let you camp there. But the heat was really starting to get bad sides of solo touring. It's like 102 degrees, almost out of water, and far from anything. So, headed to a volunteer fire station right now. Sometimes they're pretty good about letting people camp there. At the very least, just get some water and cool down. So I guess in small town America, this is what a volunteer fire department looks like. A car rode by. I asked like where the person was working, and he said he's at work right now. Apparently, that's not running the fire department. But I did find this sink out back, so I'll just cool off. One thing that a lot of adventurous cyclists do is if you can't really find a campground, then you can just, you know, kind of tuck off into the woods a little bit. I mean, you're just on a bike, set up a tent. But the thing about biking in Texas is there's like literally no public land. Everything is private. Everybody in that state owns a piece of land and they all have it barbed wire fence around it. So there's never any shade because you're basically in the desert, and you can't even get off into anywhere to take a break because everything is just barbed wire. So I was recommended this campground, like picnic area just off the side of the highway. I got tables and stuff. And set my tent up back here. As soon as I got there and set up my tent, it was like a torrential downpour. I was able to cook some lentils before the rain started, and I was just sitting in my tent eating these dry ass lentils as the rain just poured down. And it was, yeah, it was pretty, about as depressing as it sounds. I think I am done with this tour. I mean, it got to the decision where I realized it was too dangerous for me to continue. I had gotten heat stroke before when I was actually training for this trip. My friend Jet and I, we rode out to Krause Springs, which is like 40 miles outside of Austin. And once again, 110 degrees, super high humidity, not really the safest environment to be long distance cycling in. And right before we got to Krause Springs, I felt like I was gonna pass out. I had a pounding headache, and we went into, luckily there was a gas station right there. Pretty much collapsed as soon as I entered. I just sat at this booth and was putting ice all over my face. I had a pounding headache. My muscles on my legs literally started spasming, and then I went in the bathroom and threw up. I came back out and I googled heat stroke. I had literally every single symptom. I didn't really know how serious heat stroke actually was until I got back, and I talked to my friend Erica, that's a physician assistant, and just telling her about all the symptoms I was experiencing. She's like, the next thing that would have happened was, if you didn't get to a place to cool off, was your organs would start shutting down and you would probably pass out and could die. So that was definitely a wake-up call. I like to say that I don't want to say I'm happy that I got heat stroke, but it was important because I was able to realize a lot of the warning signs now. If I am feeling a little overheated, which, fun thing about heat stroke is once you get it once, it makes it easier to get it again. So that's pretty great. Get to experience that for the rest of my life. But all in all, I'm happy I rode, I'm happy I did the trip. It was an amazing experience. Even though it lasted only 7 days and I only biked 350 miles when I set out to do 1,500, it was still great. I was able to learn more about myself, learn more about my limits, when to call it quits. I met amazing people, which any trip I've ever gone on, I'll say that it's always all about the people. I mean, the people that I've met on that trip, any trip I've gone on, that's the best part about it. And I know myself, and I know that this isn't, I mean, it's not going to be like, oh, this is the end of biking. I already have future trips that I'm planning in other states, other countries, so that's why you should subscribe to this channel so you can see that coming. But yeah, it was a great trip. Despite all the negative things, you could say, I think it was a lot of positive because I grew a lot from it. Every difficult, stressful situation produces a lot of positive growth. And that's worth doing, all those stressful things.